Okay, I think we can go ahead whenever you're ready, Chair Sapien.
Thank you so much. Welcome one and all. Welcome one and all to the MAG Transit Committee. Good afternoon. As a reminder, please turn your mics on and clearly state your name before speaking to ensure that members of the audience can hear. And please mute your mics when not speaking to eliminate feedback noise. As a reminder, phone attendees will need to press *6 to unmute themselves. Because this is a virtual meeting, a roll call vote will be taken for each action item on the agenda. And we will now begin with a roll call of members. Kara, will you be doing that?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Sapien. All right. Since I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to be going off of the Zoom, the Zoom list. So we have Aubrey Perry here, Miss Ketcherside.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm here. My audio is all messed up for some reason. Can someone send me the phone number because I'm not finding it? And I will be calling in on my phone for audio. So when you see an Android phone, that's me.
Okay. I can send you the number in one moment. Thank you.
I was going to put something in chat and chat is disabled.
Yes, Miss Ketcherside, we have to disable the chat since it's not visible to the public. And these meetings are public, so we can't have private chats.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. Miss McMurdy.
Sorry, I'm here. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Miss Coomer.
Hi, this is Dawn Coomer.
Thank you. Mr. Jones. Mr. Elias.
Present.
Yep. Mr. Crampton.
I'm here.
Mr. Macias.
Present.
Thank you. Miss Post.
Here.
Mr. Dudley.
Here.
Let's see. Mr. Kempton.
Here.
Mr. LaPuma.
Here.
Miss Corapella.
Here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you. Thanks. Mr. Banda.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Here.
Chair Sapien.
Present and accounted for.
Thank you. Let's see. Tony Flood. Not hearing you. I have T. Quigley.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Quigley.
This is Tony. I'm here. I couldn't get my unmute to work.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Beloit?
Here.
Blue? Thanks. And then we do have an iPhone that's unidentified on the call. Is there anyone I didn't call?
Yes, that's me, Nina Arredondo, Pinellas County. I'm not finding a way to add my name to the system
That's
yet.
okay, no problem. Thank you.
Sorry.
Nope, we're good.
This is Kristen from
Um,
Surprise. I'm also on
Thank you.
from Surprise. I'm also on the phone.
Yes.
And this is Carol Catcher side. Now I don't know why I've got echoes going on, but I'm on the phone as well.
Thank you.
Did you hear me? This is Kristen.
Yes, Kristen, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, that completes roll call. Chair Sapien.
Thank you so much. Roll call for action items should be fun. Thank you, everybody. Item number 2, call to the audience. An opportunity for public comment on the agenda was provided ahead of the meeting. On June 9th, 2023, changes were made to the process for accepting and sharing written comments from members of the public not attending in person or when a virtual only meeting is held. Comments must be received at least 2 hours prior to the posted start time for the meeting and are now provided to the committee in advance of the meeting for consideration. Kara, did we receive any comments?
Chair Sapien, we did receive one comment and it was distributed to the committee an hour in advance of the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, I saw that come across. All right, that item is for information only. Next up, Audra Kester-Thomas, MAG Transportation Planning Program Manager, will provide a report on activities of general interest.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Transit Committee. Pleased to be with you here today. Just a few things for announcements. First, I want to congratulate Valley Metro on the over $13 million funding award for the low-no missions bus grant award. That's a grant this region has previously been successful in achieving just recently with the city of Phoenix as well. And so kudos to Valley Metro on the new dollars coming into the region. I want to acknowledge Chairman Sapien as he concludes his time as chairman of the Transit Committee. He received notice prior to today's meeting for solicitation of a new vice chair. As Chairman Sapien concludes his term at the end of this year, Vice Chair Kevin Link of the City of Glendale will ascend to chairmanship. I've understood that it'll be a peaceful transition of power, but we do need to fill the appointment of a new vice chairman. This will be as history has indicated and practice here at MAG, this will likely be an East Valley seat. So I want to encourage our East Valley members to particularly seek interest in this opportunity. Letters of interest are due by Wednesday, October 25th. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me in advance if you're interested. And then finally, as this group is aware, enabling legislation for the extension of Proposition 400 in Senate Bill 1102 was successfully passed by the legislature on July 31st and signed by Governor Hobbs the following day. This directs the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors to call an election for a 20-year extension of the dedicated half-cent sales tax, which is established the transportation infrastructure in this region for over the last 40 years. This is a huge accomplishment for our member agencies. I want to extend deep appreciation to staff at all cities and our other partners in this huge achievement. And we're very much looking forward to the next phase of this affair. If you have any questions about enabling legislation, you can certainly ask me offline. Chairman Sapien, that completes my report.
Thank you so much, Audra. It has been a pleasure to serve. And yes, I have agreed to voluntarily give up this power at the end of the year. I would highly encourage those interested to submit a letter of interest to be vice chair. Once you ascend, I like that word, once you ascend to chair, it comes with many perks. All right, next item, approval of consent agenda. The next item is the approval of the consent agenda with the meeting minutes of May 1st, 2023, and the joint meeting minutes of June 5th, 2023. Do any members of the committee have any questions or corrections to the minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Reed Kempton. I'll approve. All right, motion to approve.
Nina
Thank you.
Arredondo, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Kara will do a roll call vote. Please indicate how you vote when she calls on you.
Okay, yes, so starting back at the top, Miss Aubrey Perry, how do you vote?
For it, I'm voting for it.
Thank you. Ms. Carol Ketcherside? Carol,
Sorry,
if
did you?
you're-
I approved.
Thank you, sorry. Couldn't hear you for a sec there. Ms. McMurdy?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Coomer?
Approve.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Elias?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Crampton?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Macias?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Post?
Abstain.
Noted. Mr. Dudley?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Kempton?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. LaPuma?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Corapella?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Banda?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Thank you. Chair Sapien?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Quigley?
Aye.
Thank you. Miss Tony? Oh, sorry. Tony, yeah, thank you. Ms. Nina Arredondo?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Beloit?
Aye.
Thank you. Has anyone sent to join the call that we didn't get a vote from?
Kara, this is Heather Wilkie, and I vote
Thank you.
aye.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkie. And the motion has passed, Chair Sapien. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everyone's input. Next item number 5 on the agenda will be presented by Ted Brown, MAG Transportation Performance Program Manager. This item is on the agenda for action. Ted?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of Transit Committee. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk to you about Public Transportation Agency Safety Plans, or PTASP. Next slide, please. So I apologize in advance for the wall of text. Sometimes you just have to get through the regs. I will make a long story short. All recipients and subrecipients of Section 5307 federal funds need to have a PTASP, or Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, that outlines the agency's safety management system. It also must include some performance targets based on the criteria established under the National Public Transportation Safety Plan, and establish a process and timeline for conducting annual reviews. Now, how does this all apply to MAG? Well, the statute reads that we should coordinate to the maximum extent practicable with our PTASP eligible agencies on regional targets. Next slide, please. In our region, we have 3 PTASP eligible agencies. We have the City of Phoenix as the recipient, Valley Metro Rail, and Valley Metro RPTA as subrecipients. You can see here on the right that each publish an individual agency safety plan. These plans contain a wealth of information about training, committees, responsibilities, documentation, record keeping, et cetera, et cetera. They also contain each agency's safety performance targets. Now, this is the core group that, along with MAG, formed the PTASP working group that was convened and meets every 6 months or so to develop and implement regional PTASP targets. Next slide, please. Speaking of those targets, we have 4 areas of performance and 7 total targets. So for fatalities, injuries, and safety events, the targets are represented as a total number of each event type, as well as the incidence of that event type per 100,000 vehicle revenue miles. For the last category, system reliability, it's presented as the mean time or distance between mechanical failures. The agencies must also report these targets by each service type, so we'll be presenting 3 sets of targets here in a moment. Now, at our working group meetings, we've talked about the source of this data, the collection of this data to support the performance targets, and discuss the development of those regional PTASP targets. And to that end, we have developed targets by combining the targets from individual agencies as appropriate. So totals were summed, the highest rates were adopted, and the lowest mean time between failures was adopted. And before I switch over to these targets, I want to note that I once again have an easy job of presenting the hard work of others. I'd like to thank Lars Jacoby from the City of Phoenix, Kenneth DeBow from Valley Metro Rail, and Frank Sottile from Valley Metro RPTA for really doing the yeoman's work in gathering this data and getting it prepared for us to make these regional targets. Next slide, please. And here are those targets. So as I mentioned, we have different targets by service type. So on the top, we have our bus targets. Below that, we have our demand response targets, which represents our paratransit service. And then finally on the bottom, we have our light rail and streetcar targets. Now, I recognize that having fractional targets can look a little funny, but that's kind of the nature of using the 3-year rolling average to create these targets. Along those same lines and thinking a few years ahead, if we see growth in transit ridership, I would anticipate seeing some of the numbered targets in particular be missed. Obviously, that would be a function of the growth and not caused by any shortcomings in any of these plans. Now, unlike some of our other federal performance targets, this one does include a consequence for missing a target in the form of a 0.75% set aside, so less than 1%. Said another way, if you miss a target in the following year, you would need to show how you were using 0.75% of your Section 5307 funds to address that missed target. We've started doing some exploratory research on our end, should we reach that eventuality, how we would meet that standard. A little background on these categories. So a fatality is a death or suicide confirmed within 30 days of a reported event. It does not include deaths in or on transit property that are the result of illness or other natural causes. Injury is any damage or harm to a person as a result of an event that requires immediate medical attention off-site away from the scene. Safety events are collisions, derailments, fires, hazardous material spills, acts of nature, in a transit revenue facility, in a transit maintenance facility, or involving a transit revenue vehicle that meets the established NTD reportable thresholds. And finally, system reliability is the rate of vehicle failures in service, defined as a failure of some mechanical element in the vehicle that prevents the vehicle from completing a scheduled revenue trip or from starting its next scheduled revenue trip. Next slide, please. So in addition to the targets themselves, I wanted to provide just a little context on some safety initiatives around transit, and the first being safety events. So strictly speaking, FTA asks that at a minimum, all safety events that meet an NTD major event threshold be reported. Those events require what's called an SNS 40 form be filled out and submitted to NTD, which is the National Transit Database. This can include things like I mentioned before, collisions, derailments, but also things like electric shocks and power failures. Now, in our region, Valley Metro RPTA has elected to go above and beyond that standard, and they are reporting on all safety events, even those that don't necessitate the filing of an SNS 40 form, meaning we're reporting a higher number of safety events than you might anticipate. To make that a little more discrete, in calendar year 2022, they reported 367 safety events, but only 29 of them required an SNS 40 form. That's right around 8%. Next up, safety assessments. Now, a good number of these have been done around light rail stations, which has led to some new fencing being installed to discourage folks from putting themselves in a dangerous situation to cross the street. And finally, Valley Metro RPTA is working on implementing AI avoidance detection on a segment of their fleet, which also aims to improve safety. Next slide, please. And I always like to end with what's coming next. So our working group will continue to meet to discuss all things PTASP, how we can streamline this data collection, the production of our targets, refine our reporting, and translate this data into actionable items. As our eligible agencies, we're going to start bringing you longitudinal tracking of these targets. Now, we may need a couple of years for those targets to provide any meaningful trends, but there's no time like the present to get started on that. Next slide, please. This item is on the agenda today for action. Mr. Chair, that completes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much, Ted. Appreciate it. Yeah, PTASP has been somewhat of a heavy lift over the past couple of years, ever since it got passed. And it got clarified recently with a couple of extra bills at the federal level. So there is definitely a lot of reporting that needs to be going on. And folks at Valley Metro Rail, and City of Phoenix have been working closely together to put this together. And it's a little bit of a heavy lift, I'll tell you that. Any questions from any transit committee members at this point? If not, I would request a motion and a second so that we could vote on this.
This is Christine from Goodyear. Move to approve.
Thank you, Christine. Do we have a second that someone might be muted?
Second, this is Jason with City Chamber.
Thank you, Jason. With that, Kara, I assume you'll take roll call.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Chair Sapien. So Ms. Perry.
I motion to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Dudley.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Banda.
Approve.
Thank you, Mr. Crampton.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Macias.
Approved.
Thank you, Ms. Coomer. Ms. Coomer, you may be muted still if you're there. Moving on, Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Quigley. Mr. Quigley, if you may be muted. Moving on, Ms. McMurdy.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Flood.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Kempton.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Beloit.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Arredondo.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkie.
Approve.
Thank you, Ms. Corapella.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. LaPuma.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Post.
Aye.
Thanks. Mr. Elias.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Ketcherside.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair Sapien.
Aye.
Thank you. I just wanted to give one last opportunity. Ms. Coomer, Mr. Quigley, I did not hear your vote if you're there or if anyone else joined us since we started the meeting.
Hi, this
Thank
is
you.
Dawn Coomer, voting aye.
Yep. Thank you.
This is Ed Jones voting aye.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ed.
All right.
And Chair Sapien, the motion passed unanimously. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone hanging on for that. Next item, item 6 on the agenda will be presented by Steph Stearns, MAG Transportation Planner. This item is also on the agenda for action, so hang in there, folks. Steph?
Good afternoon, Chair Sapien, members of the Transit Committee. I'm pleased to be here today to present this item for action. Next slide, please, and one more. So just a high level of what we'll get into today. We'll go over the federal requirements, what a designated recipient is, why urban areas matter, and then conclude with our action requested. Next slide. Thank you. So MAG is both a metropolitan planning organization, MPO, as well as a transportation management area, TMA. This means that MAG has a strong role in setting priorities for implementing projects in our region. And Chapter 53 of Title 49 of the U.S. Code requires that the governor assign a designated recipient for areas that exceed 200,000 in population. Next slide, please. I'd like to note that while the governor makes the appointment, MAG Regional Council has historically made the request to the governor's office regarding designated recipient assignments in our region. Next slide. Thank you. This leads us into what a designated recipient is, or DR for short. It's an eligible public entity with the legal authority to apply for, receive, and dispense FTA funds. It's essentially an administrative role, and the DR and City of Phoenix has been acting as the DR for our region since 1975. Next slide, please. A lot of the work that goes into being a designated recipient is invisible, especially when it's done well. So we're fortunate to have a partner in the City of Phoenix that has been fulfilling this role in the region. A selection of responsibilities that the DR is responsible for are shown on the screen. This is everything from grant administration, the day-to-day paperwork of getting the grants done, to triennial reviews, which I'm sure Chair Sapien can attest to the level of effort that these take. This also includes subrecipient oversight, which includes many of our members here at this virtual table, as well as private nonprofits that provide transportation services to seniors and individuals with disabilities. And then finally, the City of Phoenix, specifically the Public Transit Department, work to ensure compliance with all federal requirements. This is everything from solicitation to construction, so very much a cradle to grave effort. And in fact, the next item on this agenda, item number 7, the FTA semi-annual grant status report, is just another example of everything that Phoenix does. Next slide, please. Moving on into urban areas. In the MAG region, we have 3 urban areas as shown on the map. In the blue, this is the Phoenix Mesa Scottsdale urban area. In the peach tan, depending on your screen, is going to be the Phoenix West Goodyear Avondale urban area, which is what this agenda item is specific to. Finally, we do have the Maricopa urban area down south. And the 2 most important things to know about urban areas is that they are census designated, so after each decennial census, and that they determine the federal fund apportionments, both the amount of funding and the types of apportionments that are seen. Next slide, please. So like I previously mentioned, urban areas receive apportionments based on population. We have 3 areas in the region. And then for each urban area, there is an eligible entity that either has been or will be designated to administer the FTA funds. There are 2 ways that this can happen, as either a direct or a designated recipient. Next slide, please. Getting into the difference between the 2, they're very similar. A direct recipient serves areas that are small urban areas. Those are populations under 200,000. They request funding from FTA through the state DOT. So in our case, that would be ADOT. And they're only responsible for one type of funds, which would be 5307 funds. The designated recipient, on the other hand, serves large urban areas with populations greater than 200,000. They are able to request funding from FTA directly, and then there are some additional fund types that they are responsible for. In either case, whether direct or designated, the responsibilities of grant administration, compliance, and oversight still exist. And I'll note that since the inception of the Phoenix West Goodyear Avondale urban area, the City of Phoenix has served in the role of direct recipient, but now that the area has crossed the threshold from small to large, it has exceeded the 200,000 population, we would like to update the City of Phoenix's recipient status. Next slide, please. So why it makes sense for the City of Phoenix to assume this role. The City of Phoenix has been the designated recipient for the Phoenix Mesa Scottsdale urban area since 1975. They meet all of the federal requirements of a DR, and this will allow for some expedited grant delivery by not having to go through ADOT to request funding from FTA. Next slide, please. From here, this request will go through the MAG committee process, culminating with regional council approval, at which point we will work with ADOT to transmit a request to the governor's office for the designated recipient assignment. And then as a side note, I'll just conclude by saying MAG is working on policy updates associated with these kinds of actions throughout our entire transportation portfolio. So not just transit, but transportation holistically. And we anticipate upcoming policy discussions over the next coming months and into next year. Next slide. And this concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair. The action requested is on the screen. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Steph. Very well done. Any questions from any members of the committee?
Not such a question. This is Matt Dudley, City of Avondale, but more of a thanks. Thanks, Steph, for answering all our questions. I know as we were kind of surprised as everyone else that the PGA, which we're calling the Phoenix, Goodyear, Avondale urban area was not assimilated into the Phoenix area. So I know it means a little more work, but I do appreciate City of Phoenix stepping up and becoming the designated recipient for the area.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Jason, City of Chandler. Hey, Steph. So I guess this, given that there will be a separate urban area, are we still going to continue with the same funding scenarios where the West Valley is funded separately and they'll have kind of their own FTA pot of funds to use separate from the region?
So Chair Sapien, Mr. Crampton, members of the committee, great question. It's a little too soon to answer exactly how that's going to work. Like I mentioned at the end of my presentation, the upcoming policy discussions, looking at our transportation portfolio in the region as a whole. The transit programming is going to be done a little differently. So that's still to be determined.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Anyone else?
Steph, this is Christine, same as Matt. Thank you for all of your hard work on this. It felt like curveballs were coming from everywhere. When would these policy conversations start?
I'm thinking late this year, early spring. It's out of my hands when it happens, but that's my best estimate.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Anyone else? And we at City of Phoenix appreciate the region's trust in giving us this role, and we look forward to continuing to work with everyone. If there are no other questions or comments, I would take a motion and a second for the action as shown on the screen.
This is Matt Dudley for City of Avondale. I will move to approve.
Thank you, Matt.
Sorry, from Goodyear, second.
Ooh, way to get that in there, Christine.
Thank you so much to both of you. We have a motion and a second. Kara, I assume you will take roll call one last time.
Yes, Chair Sapien, thank you so much. Starting back at the top, Ms. Perry.
Approve.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley.
Approve.
Mr. Bonda.
I approve.
Thank you, Mr. Crampton.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Messias.
Approve.
Thank you, Ms. Coomer.
Approve.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Quigley.
Aye.
Thank
I
you.
also lost my video or my audio on the previous item, so sorry.
No problem. Thank you so much. Ms. McMurdy.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Flood.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Kempton.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Beloy.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Arredondo.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkie.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Corapella.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. LaPuma.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Post.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Elias.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Ketcherside.
Aye.
Thank you, and Chair Sapien.
Aye.
Thank you. Just want to make sure that I didn't miss anyone or that no one's joined the calls that we didn't capture a vote from. Thank you, Chair Sapien. The motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging in there. The last vote's always the quickest. Item number 7 on the agenda will be presented by Juanita Carver. For those of you that have not met Juanita, she is new to the City of Phoenix Public Transit Department, having joined our department as the Assistant Director over our Fiscal Services, Grants, and Information Technology and Procurement. So I will hand it over to Juanita for the.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Transit Committee, for this opportunity to review some of our current grant items. There are 62 of them, so we won't be going in detail on all of them, but they are in your packet on page 29. I also have Wendy Miller and Stephanie Rangel available on the line in case anyone had any questions that they wanted to bring up. But as an overview, again, there are 62, 7 just recently closed that are still listed. An additional 4 are fully spent, but they're contingent on another grant. So they'll have to stay open until those grants are complete. And then there's another 13 due by the end of the calendar year. So this represents over $2 billion awarded. 77% has been expended to date, leaving 23% remaining. And of that remaining amount, 57% of that is the South Central extension. And then within that, about another 17% is various grants for vehicle purchases. So we would ask that everyone review those and make sure that the status that we have represented for your organization is accurate and that those target dates are what you believe them to be. And if you have any changes, please do contact us. You can contact Stephanie here with Public Transit. And then just a reminder that if there's no spend on them within 18 months, they can come under further scrutiny. So wherever possible, please expend that funding, and please let us know if you have any concerns with the ability to spend anything in the meantime, and we'll work with you on that. And Chairman, that's all I have, unless there are any questions from committee members.
Thank you so much, Juanita. Do any members of the committee have any questions? Again, it is all the grants are listed on the last 10 pages of the Transit Committee packet for today. All right. If not, thank you so much, Juanita. Item number 8, are there any updates or announcements by committee members? Anything any city would like to share with the team? If not, next item, let's see.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Carol with Valley Metro, just doing a shameless plug. The Impact Conference that we are hosting here in this region registration is open, and just encourage everybody to take a look at that. We have a limited number of discount registrations available. If that's something that you're interested in and you have not told me already, let me know.
Excellent plug, Carol. Thank you so much. Very important. That is formerly known as Rail Evolution, now called the Impact Conference. And we will be hosting
Yes, thank you. I should have said that.
hosting it here in Phoenix at one of the best times of year. So reach out to Carol if you want to volunteer or have any interest in attending. Anyone else have anything to share with the team? If not, are there any requests by a committee member for a future agenda item? Hearing none. Next meeting date is scheduled to occur virtually on October 2nd, 2023 at 1 p.m. And if anyone has any questions before we wrap up, We will adjourn with no further business. The meeting of the MAG Transit Committee is now adjourned at 1:40 p.m. Roll call not needed for adjournment. You're welcome. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a